Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Koen Warmerdam, so I'm one of the co-founders at Aware. I'm happy that people are still there. Don't fall asleep. I hope we have a great story to share. I'm in the industry now for a little bit more than 15 years. I started my first fashion brands when I was 22. Then also started with a production agency producing garments, mainly focus in production in Portugal, a little bit in Italy, in Turkey, and dived a little bit into the sustainability topic. And soon I found out that it's not so easy, that there is a lack of transparency in textile supply chains if you really want to understand where your materials are coming from. And 6 years ago, I met my partner, Feiko van der Veen. Feiko is a bit older than me, 59, experienced trader with offices around the world, buying office in Shanghai. He lived there with his family also to set up the company. And he really dived into that topic of sustainability and traceability, understanding where the fibers from his specific products, and he was producing fashion accessories, are coming from. And then you come into a web of a lack of the ability to see transparent data in that supply chain. And that's why 5 years ago we started all over with Aware, and we are proud to share it with you today. So with Aware, we produced a platform to prove your compliance. And as Aware, we believe in proof over promises. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to join the dinner and to have a talk with the leaders of the industry. They're producing millions of garments every year. And I was asking them, guys, how do you differentiate yourself from the competition at this moment in the market? And they all came with the same answer. It's still, I need to produce the best possible product for the cheapest price possible. But now also, these customers asking me to deliver all the traceability data needed for them to be fully compliant. And maybe I have a good relationship, or maybe I can be fully compliant, but if I don't deliver on time, they will come back to me and ask me for discounts or whatsoever. So if we look to the state of compliance today, I think we can all conclude that for decades, Western society tried to gain control on Asian supply chains. First, with an audit overload. Now, I think if you ask the producers here how many auditors there will be in their factories every week, they become crazy about it. Then a certification overload, proving that the sustainable materials that have been used in final products are really sustainable. But also, that is also only based on the momentum. The auditor is there once every year, and they need to trust their supply chain partners that are really delivering recycled cotton or organic cotton. And now, with upcoming legislation, there is also a platform overload. On my last trip to Dhaka, the main or the key producers that are doing the big quantities and working with the top players in the market told me that they're already working with 10 to 15 different platforms. Can you imagine how much resources it costs to train those people? And these people, they switch between jobs, and then you need to train again all those people. And if we ask these producers if it really led to more honesty and transparency in the supply chain, they all start laughing and say, no, of course not, Koen. That's nonsense. So in the end, the suppliers need to trust their supply chain partners, as brands trust them. Because when shit hits the fan, the first thing a brand will do is call their supplier and say, hey guys, sorry, but I have a problem. And I think a great example was Decathlon a couple of weeks ago. And of course, Decathlon is not buying Xinjiang cotton by purpose. You need to sign a thick contract as a supplier to deliver these goods. But somehow in the supply chain, with the lack of transparency, it can be that through traders and through other countries, suddenly the Xinjiang cotton ended up in the final product. So Feiko and I are maybe a little bit naive, but we had a clear goal when we started this business. We want to end greenwashing. And we wanted, by doing and giving full transparency. And with full transparency, documentation that is really there from the fiber up to the final product. So that we can deliver the producers a new revenue stream, and that's selling the data. Because the brands are asking for it, but why they are not paying for it. So that in the end, their customers can be fully compliant. So what we have created with Aware is one central data hub. So whether you want to collect data based on the suppliers or the facility, the certifications that are needed to validate a claim, material data, test reports, proof of sustainability, everything is there. And everything is collected and validated by the supply chain partners themselves, because we want to give them back the trust. And what set us apart is our fiber-forward approach. It's maybe a little bit more difficult, because if you see the landscape of transparency and traceability solutions nowadays, it is all focused on product backwards. So I start with this shirt and ask my tier 1 supplier again to take ownership, to collect and validate all the data in the supply chain partners. But these product producers don't have a direct connection with the raw material producers. So they need to trust their suppliers to deliver the right documentations to validate their claims. So our approach is a little bit different. First of all, we onboard the full supply chain. So everyone is there, all the compliance are there in their profile. But secondly, and that's the differentiator, we are going to collect material data. And we are going to follow that material upstream, and every tier in the supply chain is adding data. So following the physical flow forward. And finally, the product manufacturer is automatically receiving the data and connecting it to the physical product. And at that moment, we activate all kinds of data exports. So whether it's a traceability report for the Forced Labor Act in the US that is important for our customers, or it is for the CSRD purposes, all the data is there, and we can provide it in a transparent way. We can share it through an API, or we have a digital product passport that's created automatically, not only on a product base, but on a product production level base. So a reorder, of course, can have a different data set. And where others guess, we prove. And what is really important for us, and that's again also my takeaway from these conversations the last 2 days with these suppliers, it is that it's extremely difficult for them to collect the data. So we can introduce new solutions like a digital product passport, but if we are informing the consumers again with wrong information, it doesn't make sense to introduce them at all. So by automatically giving the suppliers these data, so the product producers receiving, let's say, a fabric lot, including the data to validate all claims, not only from the fabric, but also from the yarn stage or from the fiber stage, they can provide that data towards their customers. So we really believe that we can turn data into profit. And of course, it cannot be more expensive than the product. So the producer needs to be able to sell that product, but now that same product, including all traceability data needed to validate these claims. So what do we provide them? Is an automated compliance reports, the digital product passports, so that they can stay compliant even when the regulation in the European Union or in the US is evolving. And in the end, it should all go about work more efficient, so less work, but also saving resources. Because we cannot burden always the product producer. They are already stuck into a collector's trap. And now by asking more and more from it, we make it more and more complex for them. So it's a 4-step process. It's quite easy and straightforward. So you just create an account like you do on other platforms too. But then we start with the heavy lifting. So we are responsible for the onboarding of the supply chain. We go back into these supply chains and we have local presence in now 5 countries to guide this, so that they can speak in their local language. Because I think that is the challenge. In the end, for all the traceability and transparency tools that are out there, getting the right data. So we need to make sure to help them and to give them incentives to do that, so that they can start trading the data and in the end make a reliable claim towards their customers, the final brands. And that's it.